Today we're going to talk ND filters, what they are, why you need them, and I figured while I'm shooting my college basketball mixtape, I could bring you along for the ride. Just kidding, I'm a freaking washed up dad out here in my driveway shooting basketball, but I'm going to use my washed up handles to show you how ND filters work. Let's hop into it. Before we get too far, I suspect that you may or may not know what an ND filter actually is or does. I have videos that I'll link explaining ND versus CPL because there's a lot of different types out there. You have variable NDs like I'm kind of using right now, which allows you to adjust the ND on the fly. You have hard stop NDs like this one right here that's a 4-stop ND, and you have NDs with CPLs or circular polarizers. Not going to get too deep into that. Let's talk about how I use ND filters and why you need them. The purpose of an ND filter is basically to be sunglasses for your camera so that you can keep settings within camera that you prefer. Let's say I want to shoot this scene at an f2.8 aperture and a shutter speed or a shutter degree of 180 in order to keep a, dare I say it, cinematic image. I can't do that without the help of ND. If I try to use an f2.8 aperture with a 180 degree shutter and no ND, my scene is absolutely overexposed, it's blown, there's no details in the highlights, and it's unusable. Without ND, I really only have 3 options. I can either lower my ISO, I can crank my aperture, or I can crank my shutter. If I crank my shutter, the issue with that is we're gonna look pretty digital. There's not gonna be very natural motion blur like you would see in movies or in TV. So I don't want that. I want to keep my shutter at 180 degrees, or if you don't have shutter angle, I want my shutter speed to be 1/50 if I'm shooting in 24 frames a second. Second option that I have is I can close my aperture down to a larger f-stop, which is a smaller hole in the lens. So let's say I want to crank this down to f16 in order to get the exposure that I need. I can do that. However, more things in your scene are going to be in focus. I don't want that. I want me to be the center of attention in my college basketball mixtape. So at f16, everything in the scene is in focus. There's not a very shallow depth of field, so I'm not isolated as a subject. This is where ND comes in handy at keeping those settings the way that I want to be. So if we go back to the beginning, I want to shoot at an f2.8 aperture to give me good subject background separation. I want to be able to keep my shutter speed at 180 degrees or my shutter angle at 180 degrees. And I want to keep my ISO at the base 640 for my Lumix S5 II. If I pop on a 2-stop ND filter, that's going to bring down my exposure a little bit, but if you notice, I still have some highlights that are a little bit blown. So I'm going to go one step further and go to a 4-stop ND, which gives me the exposure that I want to have for this image. I'm able to keep my 180 degree shutter, I'm able to keep my f2.8 aperture, and now I have a properly exposed image. Real quick before we go any further, if you're curious on the ND filters that I use, for this video I've been using the K&F Concepts ND filters. This is the magnetic set. They just sent these out. They come in a cool case. There is a 2, a 4, and I think a 10-stop ND in here as well. I've been using the 2 and the 4 for the B-roll for this video, but if you want to check these filters out for yourself, head over to K&F's website. I will put a link down in the description below. K&F actually sent these filters out to me for review. I've been using them now for about the past 30 days. I absolutely love the quick changeability that I have with magnetic filters. I've been using K&F filters for a long time now. I made a video a long time ago about their CPL and VND filters, and I believe in their product. They're affordable for a lot of people just getting into videography, but they're also quality enough to where I've used them for paid work, commercial work, and here on YouTube. Go check them out, link in the description below. One of the final situations that I use ND filters in are for interviews where I'm trying to keep an outdoor scenario, but I'm interviewing inside, like this example here. This is an interview that I shot with my good friend Justice. We were interviewing his grandmother as a keepsake for his family. But if you notice, I'm able to keep the outside properly exposed because I was able to ND down and still use the aperture that I wanted, shutter angle that I wanted, and the ISO that I wanted. And then we were able to supplement light inside to get her properly exposed as well. So I know this was kind of a quick video. I hope this information was helpful. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. Also go check out the K&F filters for yourself. As always, thank you for being a part of this channel. I love growing this community on YouTube. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you in the next.